What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. Now, in this video today, I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders. Surprise, they're having joint practices before their preseason game. I don't want to say that this was expected, but it's not surprising whatsoever. They play each other on August 21st. And they're going to have joint practices on August 15th and 16th. It will take place in Baltimore. So, any Ravens fans, that will be able to go, to that practice, I highly recommend it because joint practices are they are the best practice of the offseason. That is the time where you get to see what your team, what your players, what your rookies can do against other teams, because all we hear about in practice is how they did against each other. That doesn't matter. like obviously practice is great, but it's when you start reading. My favorite thing to do is I've done this before. The last joint practice the Ravens had with the Carolina Panthers. And what I would do is after each practice, I went and read the Carolina Panthers. I read all of their articles on how that practice went, because they always bring up the certain players to stand up, because obviously the Ravens media is going to have Ravens bias. They're going to say, oh, well, this player did really well. Looking at the other team's perspective of how certain players played, because there were mentions of players and they were like, man, James Prochet really took off. And it's like, okay, the Ravens media wasn't lying, about, James Prochet playing well. And, the quarterback play, oh man, they just couldn't get to Lamar Jackson. That sort of thing you get to read about, and you get the in-depth perspective, because those reporters don't get to ever go to Ravens practices. The only time you get outside reporters, unbiased reporters talking about the Baltimore Ravens practices is in joint practices. And I think that's very valuable. Obviously, if you can go to the practices, that's the best way to see it. I don't live on the East Coast. I cannot make it to those practices. So those are my favorite. But the other thing is you get to see all these matchups. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of the matchups right now, because there are some very good ones. First off, they have good wide receivers. They have good weapons in Washington. They've got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. They have Curtis Samuel. They have De'Ami Brown. Those right there are four weapons that I want to see the Ravens go up against. Speed threat and De'Ami. Just a very dominant wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson, coming into his second year, looks like he's going to take a jump. All of our corners, outside of Marlon, have question marks. How's Rocky Ya-Sin going to perform? How is Pepe Williams going to have developed? How is Kyu Blu Kelly going to, perform? All those things can be answered by looking at how they perform against good wide receivers and then transition it into the preseason game. Washington Commanders don't have a great offensive line. At the same time, edge rusher, pass rush isn't like a major thing at practice. Being able to judge, obviously you can tell who wins reps and such, but the game is where you're going to really decide that. It's typically more red zone drills for 11 on 11 and things of that sort, so nothing crazy. On the defensive side of the ball for the Commanders, there are some players that we want to see, right? Chase Young, Montez Sweat, very good very good pass rushers. How are the Ravens offensive linemen going to perform against that speed coming off of the edge? They have young corners. Emmanuel Forbes, they selected in the first round. I want to say they picked 17th or 17th or 16th. They took Forbes out of Mississippi State, one of the guys that I really like. How are the Ravens wide receivers going to do against that? How is Zay Flowers going to perform against a rookie SEC corner? How is Odell Beckham Jr. going to look coming back in his first practice against another team outside of his own? We're going to get a lot of reports on that. How's Rashad Bateman going to look in that? How is the Todd Monken offense going to look getting into that next preseason game? There are a ton of things to look forward to, with the joint practices. I'm always very excited about it. The news came out today, so I wanted to put a video out on it. Nothing too long, nothing too crazy. Very excited to see what happens. The other thing is Eric Bieniemy is the offensive coordinator now in Washington, so maybe seeing how that looks, just from a practice standpoint, because the Ravens have never had a joint practice with somebody like Eric Bieniemy. So it's going to be very interesting. Ron Rivera and John Harbaugh are good friends, so it's not surprising whatsoever. Teams are very close to each other. So let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. Are you excited? what matchups are you looking forward to seeing? Do you like joint practices? Will there be a fight at the joint practice? But thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.